The biofauna are the natural result of an Earth without water. Animals have been rapidly pushed through evolution thanks to the dust, and are fused with plants to thrive on new Earth. While the colonies view them as abominations, divers have embraced biofauna as partners, seeing how successful they've been in reclaiming a planet they thought was lost. In-game, biofauna allow you to generate more energy cells and shield you from attacks.
What's going on, YouTube? Earth Power here, joined by CVH.
How's it going, everybody?
And we have some faction reviews for you today. So, as I mentioned in the previous box opening with Gorby, we were going to be getting into some of these cards, what they do, and kind of how they interact with each other. I think it's pretty important to know these cards, or at least have a resource to click on these cards to know what they do as we play them. And this will kind of give you like a brief overview of kind of each of the 10 cards in the 3 factions. And we're starting off today with the Biofauna, as you guys saw in the opening trailer. So really cool lore here. These are all creatures that I guess existed on Earth, but then because of all the weird dust things, and excuse me for not really knowing the lore, but being new to this, I guess this kind of apocalyptic world turned all of these creatures, or they, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Evolved as
Yeah, that
the
one.
world started to fall apart, and they just kind of became. What's the word I'm looking for? Explain this better for me.
I don't know the
What
lore.
happened here?
You know I don't know the lore.
But what I'm saying is, like, when something it adapts. There you go.
Adapts, yeah.
Crap, man, I couldn't think of the word.
It's
But when it
fine.
adapts to the world that they live in, and we're gonna start with some of them here. So we're gonna start with some of the low drops and kind of work our way into the 6 drops. So
Before you do
for
that,
those
is
of you
there
guys,
any like details about the factions that he provided you, like certain things they tend to do or like to do? Was there like a
uh,
summary?
like what the creatures can be found doing in their free time? I don't think so.
Yeah,
Um,
like
no,
mechanically.
no, nothing quite like that. I know that a lot of these biofauna are more keen towards, I guess, retrieval. There's a lot of these guys work. Not only do they, I think they have shields, and then they have a lot of retrieval. I think the idea is that these are the guys who are kind of giving back to the world, more or less. So I think that's part of the lore, and obviously Spencer can correct me if I'm wrong, and I'll probably get into a little bit of that once we interview with him later, and he can correct me on all the crap that I'm saying right now. But first impressions, yes, the biofauna are more keen towards getting stuff back from the dust, and I guess recycling things as you play them. And then they are the protectors as well, because I guess they are the protectors of the world that we're going back on. Because I guess again, part of the lore is that as the human race, as your role as a diver, you're diving into the world to retrieve, I guess, whatever it is that you can to bring your island back to life. And these are the creatures that inhabit the world that you're diving into. So,
All right, what
there
are we
you
jumping
go.
into first, Carl?
So first cards first. Fern Tip Hair. Probably one of my more favorite cards from this little 10 card set here. So something quick to note is the curve of these cards. As you're playing, and again, we'll get more into the rules with this as we play in some of the like battle style games, but the curve of these cards range from 2 to 6 is what they cost. That's what you'll spend your energy cells on. And I'll do a rulebook analysis as well, and we can kind of talk about it. But this is one of the 2 cost ones. So early on, this is one of the cards you're going to want to be grabbing. Um, and I guess how it interacts with a lot of some of the other stuff we'll see as we go on here. And I guess I'll just give you the overview of the card. I'll speak to it, and then you can add your notes if you will, Christian. But
Sure.
Fern Tip Hair, it's a 2 cost. Retrieve 1 card from dust. And if you retrieve an energy cell from your dust pile, add efficient to this ally this turn. So, thoughts there before we
Yeah,
move
so
forward.
Yeah, like you said, this is one of those retrieval cards. We're going to see a lot of that in this faction. So as you progress through the game, a lot of your cards will wind up in dust, either by you dusting them or your opponents messing with your strategies. So this is one of those cards that can be good early if things get dusted that you want back, or late game in particular when there's some really heavy threats in the pool. Might look unassuming, but this is one of those ways you can steal them back.
Yeah, and Fern Tip is a really easy way early on. As you start to progress into like the turns 3, 4, and 5, you're going to start dusting energy cells out of your hand. They become more useless as you continue on through the game because you're putting combos together and the energy cells are just taking up space. Fern Tip Hair acts as a way to not only get those back, but it provides an energy when you play it. So this, while getting an energy back, can provide you 2 to get you up to those 6, 7, and 8. I guess, energy mercs, if you will, so you can start grabbing relics, which we'll get into here shortly.
Yep, really cool card, a lot of flexibility.
Yes. So speaking of flexibility and how a card doesn't really have a lot of that, we'll move on to Mr. Pedalwing Strider.
Look at
So,
that text box full of a whole lot of nothing.
oh, nothing, but the art's cool. Look at it. It's like a
It
little
is.
it's like one of those little things from one of those Disney movies, the little things that like fly around. It looks like it's got the sun in it. I can't tell if that's actually the sun in the background or if that's just a little light that it's holding.
It's one of the 5 sons of Earth. I have no idea how many suns are. Actually, no, there's probably just one. Probably just one sun.
Are you making up your own lore
Maybe a
right
few
now?
moves. Yeah. Yep. I'm not a scientist. But Carl, why don't you tell us about Pedaling Strider?
Shadowwing Strider, again, an unassuming card, but early on can be relatively powerful, especially if you open up with a 4 energy hand. And again, I look at these cards being just early turn threats and then how they kind of progress into the later turns. So Pedalwing Strider, if you open up your game with 4 energy cells and Pedalwing Strider is an option for you, you can grab 2 of them. Not only is Pedalwing Strider efficient, which means you can just play him as an energy cell if you need it, because he provides an energy when you play him. He also has the shield ability. So you can play him face down, flip him at the end of the turn, and then he'll provide 1 energy consistently throughout the game while providing a low-cost shield. And he's efficient, which means you can play him, charge him, and it won't cost your ally action for the turn.
Yeah, being efficient is huge because you want to weave in these small things sometimes late, but you really don't want to not play your big threatening or really powerful effects. So this just getting to be able to weave in, and don't discount like the 1 energy it provides. Playing this as a shield even early, you don't even need to block things with it. You can just soak up that 1 energy turn after turn, and it feels really, really good. I promise.
Yeah, the consistent like ability to get energy from the shields you're playing, I think, are what makes certain shields, and we'll get into a few more here in a moment, and one of my more favorite ones coming up 2 cards from now. But yeah, they provide a consistent source of energy, which is very, very powerful if you're playing a game where opponents aren't very attack heavy. And it can be, very much overlooked to where all of a sudden it's just a consistent, 1, 2 mana every turn. And again, circling back to the ability, thinking long term, as you dust those energy cells from your hand, this provides another just efficient energy cell. So something to keep in mind.
Let's get into another awesome shield, Carl. Is this the one you were talking
Yeah.
about? That's one of your favorites?
So not this one, but the one right after it. Bamboo. And we'll get to it in a
Sorry.
minute. Yeah. Bambooback Boar. Again, another low cost shield. So this one for 3 cost. Grab it, and it has the ability to retrieve a card from dust. So the way shields work, and I guess this is what needs to be explained here. Shields can be played as an ally action to charge a shield, and that can be your ally action for the turn. You charge the shield, you put it face down, and that counts as your action for the turn if it's not efficient. And then you go on with whatever else you have to do, play your cost, and then flip it at the end of the turn. However, shields can also just be played face up. You don't have to charge the shield in order to play this card. So Bambooback Boar, sorry, it's a mouthful if you can't say it too fast. You can play it, retrieve a card from dust, and it provides an energy. Or you can charge it as a shield, wait for the full turn to cycle, and on your next turn and every residual turn that Bambooback just kind of hangs out, it gives you a free energy every turn, and it can start retrieving cards from dust. This can be a very powerful shield in the mid game. So, thoughts?
Yeah, you pretty much said it. It pays those dividends. You can just sit there and, get the economy going, keep taking stuff from the dust pile over and over again. And of course, sometimes you just get hit with a really powerful attack, as you know, all these cheap shields are. Like when you're paying 2 or 3 for a shield, you don't feel too bad about sacrificing it to prevent someone from discarding a bunch from your hand or something. So, you know, really good, flexible card that really shines as the turns progress and there's more to get from dust.
Yeah, and I think it's important to mention at this point that, you know, these games aren't necessarily meant to be played 1v1. I think shields are a lot less powerful if you are playing 1v1 against an opponent, especially when they have a shield that can't necessarily, or they have an attack that can't necessarily attack your shield. So, you know, it's an interesting dynamic when you start playing with like 4 people and you're getting attacked on multiple turns before it becomes your turn. You know, that's where shields really shine.
Yeah, there's that, and also the fact that if you're 1v1, all of the attacks are going to attack you, the other player. But if you're 4v4, there's some cards that we'll get into that will attack one person that you get to choose. So sometimes you'll attack someone with a really powerful shield or with a really powerful strat or a lot of victory points, and you'll just be sitting over there on the other side of the table with your Rhino, or with your board, just getting, you know, card after card because you're not seen as a threat, so you can really milk those shields for all they're worth.
Right, but speaking of Rhino, this does take me to one of my more favorite shields, especially early on in the game. This card paid. I played a test game with Gorby, and forgive me for not recording it, but started
Don't
off the
forgive
game
him.
the old 2 fusion fragment first turn hand, where you only have 3 energy cells to spend on your first turn. Not the best way to start a game. However, Barrelhorn Rhino was a choice that we had on the board, so I picked him. And then 2 turns later, I drew him, charged him, and it provided 2 energy for probably 4 turns. It was nuts. This card is absolutely insane if it sticks around early on. And again, that was in a 1v1 game, so probably not going to happen very often. But just the fact that it provides 2 residual energy every turn seems very strong to me and very easy to overlook.
Yeah. In comparison to the last card that gets you something from dust every turn, but only 1 energy, this is much more early game focused. Like you took it early and it really started paying off because it allowed you to ramp up into those huge buys really quickly. And there wasn't anything industrially that you wanted at that point. So like if the 2 were on the table next to each other, this would be the good choice earlier because you really just want to start buying those 5s and 6s and making some power plays.
Yeah, very much so. And I think one thing we're forgetting to look at and we're overlooking ourselves is the little flavor text on a lot of these cards. One Rhino carapace, excuse
Yep.
me for being bad at words, contains many weeds worth of water.
Weeks?
So this,
Did you say
this
wheeze?
what did I say? Weeds?
Yeah.
Many
Weeks.
weeks worth of water. Okay, so you'll be drinking for days with this guy.
Gross.
Next. Iron Spark Fireflies. So we're past the shields now. We're back to some efficient allies, which is neat. Iron Spark Fireflies costs 3, provides an energy when you play it, and it says recall 1 card from your discard. You may discard a fusion fragment, and if you do, draw a card. So a lot of neat things going on with Iron Spark Fireflies here. Early on in most games, it's pretty common to discard your fusion fragments. But this could be a reason maybe not to discard early, depending on what your first or second picks are.
Oh, do you mean like dusting them, actually?
Dusting, yes. What did
Yeah.
I say? Discarding.
Yeah.
So 2 different words there, discarding and dusting. And catch me if I do that again. But
I got you.
not only is Iron Spark Fireflies one of the few cards that allows you to get things back from your discard pile, which is a very rare effect in this game, but it says you may also discard the fusion fragments. So now you have a way to keep those fragments, in your deck, discard them, and draw cards depending on how you're cycling through your deck. And for those of you who aren't aware, the fusion fragment provides victory points. It's one of the few cards that can be a pseudo just all of a sudden win condition. Gorby was able to grab 3 relics in a game the other day, and even though he was the first to grab 3 relics, I beat him far and beyond by having almost 5 fusion fragments in my game when the game ended. So,
Yeah,
you know,
fusion fragments start in your deck. There's 2 of them. They're worth 2 victory points apiece, and they do literally nothing besides that. So most players, like you said, will dust them early just to get more consistent draws and draw cards that do things and energies. But someone at the table, and maybe this person is you, the viewer watching this, maybe try keeping them around and picking the cards in the pool that do things with fusion fragments, and you might wind up with a very efficient strategy that's not very contested at the table and a shitload of victory points. Can I curse? I did. You can edit it out if you want.
It's fine. Disclaimer time, yeah.
Yep.
All right. Moving on to one of my more favorite card arts in the set, Mr. Lavender Lynx. Would you like to explain this one to the people, Christian?
Sure, I already found it. Thanks for trusting me. Lavender Lynx costs 4 energy to buy. They're rarely seen and never heard. Retrieve up to 2 cards from your dust, or retrieve up to 2 cards from dust, and if you only retrieve 1 card, add efficient to this ally this turn. I remember this card went through a lot of iterations in the tests, but this again, it's really just sort of the bread and butter of the biofauna that we're seeing. It's tons of retrieval. So again, in the mid to especially the late game, when a ton of dusting is going on and people are getting attacked left and right, there's going to be some juice in the dust, and Lavender Lynx will get you tons of it. Or if there's only one piece that you really, really want, you can retrieve it and play it, which is, tends to be the way this guy goes a lot of the time, because you really want to, maybe you're actually the one efficiently dusting something or whatever, and then you immediately retrieve it, and, this gets efficient and you're going crazy or something. Yeah, it's pretty good.
The chain reactions that this card can create can be rather nutty, depending on what you're getting your opponents to dust and how you're forcing them to dust. Obviously, we haven't looked at any cards because don't quote me yet, because we still got 4 more cards to go, and you'll have to forgive me for not reviewing any of these cards before we talked about them, really, outside of playing them a few times. But I don't believe any cards from Biofauna actually make you actively dust cards. So there are cards from the Colony set and the Machina set that we'll get into, in the next videos. But, this card can start being very, very, I don't know what the word is. It just reacts incredibly well with some of the other cards that are forcing people to dust things and then getting them back, creating efficient with itself so that you can play the other allies that you're grabbing back from the dust piles. This card can create some pretty nutty combos if left unchecked.
Yeah, weird rule interaction I just want to touch on because I messed it up in testing a bunch. It says if you only retrieve 1 card, add efficient to this ally this turn. So if you have already used your ally action, you can't actually play Lavender Lynx, even if you intend to only get 1 card back. But if you've only played efficient cards up to that point in your turn, you can slam this guy, add efficient to it by only getting 1 thing back, and keep on going, and then play your ally action whenever.
Okay, so excuse the edit there. You guys can see the hard cut. But yes, Lavender Lynx or efficient cards can be played after your ally action. So excuse me for that quick mishap there. But after our phone a friend, we were able to clear that up. So very neat mechanic there. But keep in mind that cards like Lavender Lynx and Fern Tip Hair, where you add efficient to them after the fact, are not efficient when you play them. So if you've already played your ally action, you cannot play Lavender Lynx and and use it as an efficient card.
If the card actually has efficient, like right under its name, you can play it whenever you want. Go nuts.
Right. You got it. All right, so we're going to move on to the next card, Mr. Vineclaw Wolf. And I will let you have at this one because I feel like you like this card.
Why do you feel like I like this card? Oh, because it's an attack card, obviously. Okay.
Not just for the art, but yeah, maybe because it's an attack.
Yeah, because I'm a terrible person and I like to attack my opponents at the table. Vineclaw Wolf, it costs 5, so we're getting into the big boys here. These are the cards that you don't normally get to see tons of early, and this is why you want to take, cards that give you energy so you can start buying them. I think this actually changed. Yeah, this has changed since the last time I played the game, so that's pretty cool. So not only is this card worth 2 energy, which is, really good when you're trying to buy even more stuff late, it's unblockable. Choose an opponent to discard 1 active shield. So yeah, basically you're just gonna force your opponent to get rid of their crazy nice shield, like the boar or whatever we were talking about earlier. And you also gain a 3rd energy if the opponent discards a shield. So 1 card giving you 3 energy and getting rid of an opponent's shield so they can be attacked by other players at the table for free. And of course, maybe getting rid of like a really powerful shield that's giving them tons of advantage too. This is one of those cards that, it might not be like, it depends on what else is at the table, but if there's powerful shields in the pool, this is definitely like a must grab that could really mess with your opponents and something they would hate to see.
And look at the little Fern Tip Hair running next to his buddy, Mr. Vineclaw Wolf.
Yeah, that hair's not going to make it. Spoiler alert.
Oh, I thought they were pals.
They're not.
Yeah, I think something important to note here is, you look at these cards a lot based on the effects that they're giving you. And even if you're not playing a very shield heavy, um, meta is not the correct word, but and based on the table, who's playing shields and things like that, even if your opponents really aren't playing shields, this card still provides just two energies as an ally action. So,
Yeah.
it's still an effective card. It's not necessarily a dead draw because there are no, and something again to note from the fact that this is a deck builder and not a TCG, is that none of these cards are ever truly dead draws. There's usually some way to make an optimal play with whatever you've got going on.
Yeah, I
But
think
yeah,
I overstated like the synergy. Obviously, like I've never actually played a game of Dust to Dust where no one ever played a shield, so you're probably gonna get like potential value here. And if there's literally no shields in the 10 card pool on the table, I would perhaps posit that maybe the pool could have been built slightly better because there should probably be like one shield in there.
to warrant this card being a part of the 10 card
Yeah,
set. Yeah. And the other thing I think important to note here too is that the unblockable, your opponent discards an active shield. Keep note that when someone is attacked, and this might be another phone a friend, but when you attack somebody, and correct me if I'm wrong, Christian, but when you attack somebody, they don't have to block you. They
that's
don't
true.
have to use your shield. So they can just let the attack ride.
Yeah.
So cards like Barrelhorn and the Bambooback can provide their residual effects. But Vineclaw Wolf is a way to just snipe those shields off the board for sure, depending on what's getting out of hand.
Yeah, and frequently as you play Dust to Dust, you'll have a shield up probably. It's probably one of the bigger ones, not like the 2-drop ones, and you'll actively choose to not block for turns on end because your shield is more valuable than whatever your opponent's doing. You can play around their stuff, but you really want that value. You don't want to have to, find enough energy to buy another shield and draw it and play it. You just want to keep getting it.
Yeah. Speaking of probably one of the most valuable shields in the game. Um, Again, another one of my more favorite cards. A lot of my cards that I prefer and that I'm definitely going for the art prints on. For those of you who haven't backed the Kickstarter yet, go do that and get yourself an art print. Oak Tuss Oliphant. Another 6-drop, or I say another 6-drop. Our first 6-drop in the Biofauna set provides 2 energy. It is a shield. And every turn, while this card acts as your shield, or just for the turn if you're playing it for your ally action, retrieve a card from dust or recall 1 card from your discard. So, like Christian was saying, this is probably one of the more valuable shields in the game, if not one of in my opinion, the most valuable shield in the game. Because if left unchecked, this card will start cycling out of the dust and your discard pile every turn, giving you just key cards that you need. It's basically, and the neat thing about a deck builder too is as you're playing your hands, you're discarding your hands at the end of the turn, any unused cards. So this card acts, for those of you, Kaijudo heads who are still here, this acts as like a crystal memory, a card that just lets you search any one card that you've attained throughout and built your deck with over the course of however many turns. This lets you just grab any one card from your discard pile that makes sense for whatever strategy you're about to lean into that turn. Or, vice versa, it just grabs something from dust. And then there's providing 2 energies on top of that is just nuts value.
Yeah, you go through your deck in this game very quickly. On average, probably like every 2 to 3 turns you're going through your deck in the late game. Sometimes even 1 turn if you have like a crazy small deck that you've built. But even then, when you go through your entire deck and it shuffles back and you don't have a discard pile, this card has the flexibility. You get something from dust if you'd like it, and you're getting 2 energy on top of it. This is one of those cards where like if you see it in the pool, then you want to start buying those wolves and other attack cards and just like trying to force your opponent to block with this or destroy it somehow, or at least offset the crazy value they're getting every turn. This is one of those like really definitive late game cards that really powers a strategy to the end game.
100%. Speaking of in-game cards, we get into Mr. Thistledown Hawk. 6-drop, efficient, retrieve up to 2 cards from dust. So this is basically just Lavender Lynx without the what am I looking for? Without the
Any downside.
yeah.
It has an energy and efficient.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just good.
Yeah, this card being
on,
efficient is the nuts, by the way.
yeah. Especially as you start to get towards those late game strategies, like CVH mentioned with Oak Tusk, things that power you through to the end game. Depending on, especially if you're playing the from behind game, where you've got opponents who are maybe a relic up on you, maybe have a few fusion fragments here and there. You're counting your victory points and you might be behind a little bit. Thistledown Hawk can just grab 2 fusion fragments from the dust, because those things tend to end up there more often than not. This thing can just grab your victory points from anywhere on the dust mat. Because as you, again, and especially in a 4-player game, as you start to get towards that end game, a lot of things start ending up in the dust and getting cycled through. And this card just gives you the ability to grab 2 and give you an energy.
Yeah, it's not slow. It doesn't remove your ally action. It's not really counterable by anything. It doesn't have to sit around for a turn to get value. It just swoops on in there like hawks do and grabs you some stuff from the dust, and there you go.
Yeah. So one thing I do want to look at really quickly before we move on. Yes. So we're going to talk about the last card in the Biofauna set, and then I'm going to circle back to a card that is different from the PDF file based on the update. And I don't know if this is going to change or not. I think something important to note, and I'll put the disclaimer. You guys saw the disclaimer at the start of the video, and we should have mentioned it there too. But a lot of these cards are going to be subject to change. Probably in a positive way, but if effects get kind of slightly modded here and there as we get towards the end of development with the game and we get out of the Kickstarter, don't be surprised. So that takes us to our last card. Christian, would you like to explain the big boy?
Absolutely, another big old shield from Biofauna, Mountaintop Tortoise. So it is a shield. It costs 6 energy. Again, that is the most anything in this game that's not a relic costs. Tortoise Islands are almost like home to divers. All right, let's see what it does. 2 energies that you can get immediately, or if you play it as a shield every turn. You may place a second shield on top of this ally even while it's charging as a shield. The shield on top of this ally always blocks first. So, hey, you can have 2 shields now. That's pretty cool. Also, this card is worth victory points. Look in the top left. Just like a fusion fragment, this card is worth 2 victory points. That's half of a relic's worth. And that is a lot, actually, as it turns out.
Yes, that is the value of this card. So, double shielding is neat. Providing 2 energies residually is neat. But just the fact that it gives you victory points while being an ally that you can grab and do things with is the true value here. Being able to stack shields, like we mentioned before, I think we've driven shield into the ground at this point, which is good because we're at the end of our Biofauna train. But shields become less powerful, I think, early on and towards the late game, where it's guys just trying to gear up and get as much residual value as they can. So being able to attack this guy, especially when guys start picking up cards in the late game like Vine Claw, and there's another card in the colony that can snipe shields as well. This card becomes harder to use effectively because it's getting dusted or discarded, and then especially if it gets dusted, you're losing the victory points that you just spent probably a whole hand to get. So it's one of those cards that needs to be played with carefully depending on how you're setting things up. But the ability to stack a shield on top of it to protect it is some neat little value there.
Yeah, definitely pretty solid. It's going to ensure that you don't get hit with any attacks on your hand or anything for a long time.
Right. So the thing I wanted to circle back to, and we'll go back to this card image, is Iron Spark Fireflies. Now, this card, based on the PDF file in the Kickstarter, this card actually does provide one victory point. It also costs 4, not 3. So excuse me for changing that. And I don't know if Spencer's changed this. I don't know which one is going to be the final version. But if it's 3 cost, I don't believe it's going to provide the victory point. If it's 4 cost, I believe it will provide the victory point. But this is the one card that's changed based on the Biofauna set as it's laid out in Spencer's Kickstarter page. So
it'd be a different version altogether. That's the fun. You pledge and you wait for Spencer to hit his goal, and assuming everything ships, you'll just get what you get.
So, all things considered too, the art is really, I think, something that we definitely didn't really talk to as much as we should have. But again, looking at all of these cards, just as having them all laid out in front of us right now, they're gorgeous. And I won't stop saying this, and Gorby, will drive it into the ground if he has anything to say about it. But the art's beautiful. Bonnie John did phenomenal with this art. Like words can't describe how pretty it all is, and just how beautiful this game really is, and I can't wait to just see it when it's finished and not on the demo cards that Spencer shipped.
Yep. I think that's it. I think we went through all of the biofauna.
I think that's it. That is the Biofauna set. So leave a like if you enjoyed. Definitely let us know what your favorite cards are, and what you're looking forward to seeing us play with the most. For sure as well, in the comment section, any questions you have, comment them. Spencer, I've noticed, has been doing a pretty good job of following up in the comment section with guys who are reaching out, that have specific questions or want to know how they can back the Kickstarter in certain ways. I know I've got some viewers who are overseas who are interested in trying to back this game. So we're going to see what we can do. And I might even have some neat little channel perks too, where I might get my hands on a few extra sets. And depending on how you guys handle and like and subscribe and stick with us through all of these videos, I might have a few sets to send out to you guys.
If you're good, if you hit like.
Yes. So that's it from us. Appreciate it. And we'll see you guys next time. Till then.